Thanks everyone for being here today. Last Saturday was a special moment for our players, our fans, and for everyone associated with our program. I was proud of how our team just kept chopping. When we were down, we just kept playing all the way to the end. The team, they believe in each other, they believe in our process, and that showed during the game. We put ourselves in a good position heading into the last month of the season, but really we need to start to play our best football here down the stretch in November. That's really what it's all about, November madness. We have to be at our best when our best is needed right now. This week is going to be another tough challenge for us. Purdue is a very good football team. They're hard-nosed, they're world-coached, and they're playing at a high level right now on both sides of the ball and on special teams. We met with everyone this morning to wrap up the last game and intro the Purdue game, and we had a short, crisp practice this morning. I was really impressed with our focus and our intent. This is going to be a week full of, very focused preparation. In order for us to be at our best against Purdue, we have to raise our game, take everything that we do up a notch or two in our preparation. And that was laid out this morning to our players, and they responded to that today in our meetings and in our practice. Again, I'd like to thank our fans. Our fans have been great all season. The woodshed was an electric atmosphere. The student section at deep end was just tremendous. A lot of energy, and our fans have traveled well all season, and so we're going to need Spartan Nation to show up for us in West Lafayette. Just really proud of this football team and the direction that we're going right now, but we got a lot of work to do. We got a lot to prove. Got a chip on our shoulder, a lot of work to be done. So, we're right back at it, and we're laser focused on Purdue and our preparation. With that, I'll open it up.
Hey, Coach, back here. You mentioned the 24-hour rule every week. Does that change after a big win like this? How tough or how easy was it to make that transition into focusing on Purdue?
No, it doesn't change. Any game, during the season, you celebrate the game, you enjoy it, then you move on quickly, and you have to do that. Like I just said, we have a very strong opponent. We're going on the road, and they've won. They're playing at a high level. And they've won some big games on the road. And we know that. So it's a good football team. So there's no lack of focus here, and we've already moved on from the last game.
I'm out in the front down here. You've been on a lot of successful staffs. I was wondering, is there like a common denominator when you get this late in the season and the pressure is increased for teams to be able to handle that and be successful?
Yeah, process. Stick with the process and continue to tighten the screws. More attention to detail, more sense of urgency, more accountability, more discipline, more emphasis on technique and fundamentals. And we keep our standards high, continue to confront and demand, make sure that we get what we need, from our players and all of our staff and in our preparation. And that's what it's all about. This is a stretch. This is November. This is where we have to be at our best. And so it's go time.
Mel, we saw how proud your dad was after the game Saturday. Can you share what you did Saturday night and some of the messages you might have gotten from people that you hadn't heard from before or were happy to hear from now?
Yeah, it was good. I was good to be able to get my dad to the game. My brother was gracious enough to stay with my mom back in Cleveland, and then my sister-in-law Cece drove Big Mel up to the game, and so I saw him in the pregame and in the locker room after the game, and he was obviously very excited, and he's a football guy. He played at Toledo, played football and baseball there. He's in the Hall of Fame there, and as as always, he's been my number one fan, and he's a Spartan fan as well. So, and then he had to head back to get back to help take care of my mom, and then obviously you get a lot of text, and when you win, you get a lot of texts and messages, things like that. When you lose, you might get a text from your mom or something like that. That's about it. So there was a lot of that, and but again, you wake up the next day, and then it's time to move on to the next one.
Did you hang with Izzo? Did he come over, or did you guys do anything that night?
Yeah, coach came by. We had quite a few people stop by, and it was a good day for the Spartans, and so it's important to celebrate your victories, but you have to keep them in perspective. And there's a time and a place for everything, and so when it's time to move on to the next, you move on to the next.
Right in front. Charles Brantley made a pretty amazing play, and I'm curious, is that an instinct play, or is that where he's coached to be within a system and then he's allowed, you want your guys to make plays, and how do you find that balance?
Well, what that play that he made was he was right where he was supposed to be based upon the call that we had in the scheme, and he used a technique that he's taught that we work on every single day. He played from high to low, sink on the credit, break on the cash, and he got back there, and quarterback went for the deep. There was a high low, so there was a deep route and there was a short route, and he decided that he wanted to take a shot on the deep route, and Chuck was there. X was closing and breaking on it as well, and he was able to go up there and make the play. And so, he's just doing what he's coached to do. But, obviously, it's one thing to coach it up and drill it, but it's another thing to do it in the game, in the crunch time when we need it. And he had the discipline to get that done, and obviously the athletic ability and the ball skills.
Mel, one thing real quick I wanted to ask you about Jalen Naylor. We saw him with his hand wrapped. Any update on him?
I don't have any updates on him right now.
The other thing I wanted to ask is, when you see Purdue, I know you're always focused on the opponent. You don't really look at a lot of things. But when Purdue's able to go up a couple weeks ago, go to Iowa and on the road and beat a team like that at the point was ranked number 2 in the country, does that almost help to dial that focus back in with the guys to be able to say, look, this team they've beaten good teams already. You can't just show up and expect to win.
We're not going to just show up and expect anything. So that's not part of what we talk about. That's not part of our mentality. I've had people reach out to me and talk about a trap game and things like that, and I don't understand any of that. I don't understand what that is. I mean, if you know your opponent, you study the film, and you know who you're facing. I mean, it's obviously they're a good football team, and they have a history of beating ranked teams when they're unranked, and so. They won some big games this year, like you talked about the Iowa game and things like that. So, our focus is on Purdue, and we know that they have good players, and we know that we have to be at our best, and we have to prepare. We have to raise our game in our preparation to get the football team where it needs to be to go on the road and do what we need to do, get the job done. But I've done the research and they obviously they're playing at a high level and they expect to win. So it's going to be a good Big Ten football game in November.
Mel, I know when you were on staff, and it's kind of looking back a little ways, you could come off the Ohio State win in '98 when you were a grad assistant and the loss at Purdue. And Purdue historically has kind of had that ability to do that. Do you go back and show these guys that game, or any of the games where you've either come off a Michigan win or a big win and say, this is how we need to stay focused, this is why we need to stay focused?
Yeah, throughout the week we're going to make sure these guys understand, all of that, because we have the information, and but all you have to do is turn on the tape and see that they have a good football team. But I have zero tolerance for any type of entitlement, roll your helmet out there, expect to win, not put the work in during the week, not prepare, casual attitude and things like that. But that's not going. We're not doing that. That's not going to happen. I mean, they have 16 wins over top 5 ranked opponents when they are unranked. That's the most in the country. They have 9 wins over AP top 2 teams when unranked. That's the most in the nation. 2021, 21-7 over number 2 Iowa. 2018, 49-20 over number 2 OSU. 84, 28-23 over Ohio State. 1976, 16-14 over number 1 Michigan. 1974, 31-20 over number 2 Notre Dame. 1960, 23. That was 74. 1960. 23-14 over number 1 Minnesota. 1957, 20-13 over number 1 Michigan State. 1953, 6-0 Michigan State. It was number 2 that beat them. 1950, 28-14 over number 1 Notre Dame. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. And we talked about. I mean, it was Michigan State's 34-31 win over number 3 Michigan in 1999 to improve to 6-0. Purdue defeated number 5 Spartans in the next week, and West Lafayette 52-28, a blowout. So what more do we need to know? So we're just, it's just preparation. We got to stick with our process, and we prepare, to get the job done. It's going to be a hard-fought game on the road. It's a Big Ten game. They got good players. We got good players, and we got to get after it. I mean, if anybody thinks that they're going to roll their helmet out there, they're not going to be going on a trip.
Mel, over here. I saw the picture of you and Mark Dantonio with Paul Bunyan in the locker room, and he's been around quite a bit enjoying this. And I don't know that every coach would want the former coach around all that much. I'm just wondering if you could sort of explain that dynamic for you and what that's like.
Yeah, I mean, Coach D is a Spartan. I've worked with Coach D for 5 years. We won a national championship together. Anytime you spend that much time with a person side by side for 5 years, 5 out of my 25 years of coaching, obviously you have a relationship. And so, I embrace his presence around our football team. It's not something that bothers me at all. And he's a Spartan, so he's a Spartan for life.
Mel, over here, down here. When Naylor went down for that second half, we saw some of the.
I didn't hear the first part. So I'm sorry.
When Jalen Naylor went down and was out for the second half, we saw some of those other receivers sort of step up, and even Kenneth Walker was a little bit involved in the passing game a little bit more than usual. How important was that to see some of the depth from that position group, and even just the passing game as a whole not really slow down in the second half, and one of your top receivers goes down?
Yeah, well, obviously Montori went in there and did a good job and stepped up and made some plays, and he's been doing that in practice, and he's been getting better and better and better. And so that's what we have to do is next man up. If you're in the game, you're a starter. And that's the mentality. When we put guys on the field, we expect them to be able to execute and make plays, or they wouldn't be out there. And guys that go out there and they don't do that, then we're going to give someone else a chance to show that they can do it.
Mel, in the middle here, Stephen Brooks, 24/7 Sports. It's clear, Purdue's next step, like you said. So what are some things that jump out about them to you? I mean, normally they're sort of known as an offensive program. I think maybe this year their defense is maybe a little bit ahead. Just sort of in general or specifically, what are some things about this team that stand out to you, and what will be a challenge when you guys go down there?
Yeah, well, they've done some things defensively. They made some changes staff-wise and scheme-wise, and they're playing better defensively. They have some really good defensive ends that are hard to block in the run game and in the pass game, and they just play really good team defense. They play hard. Offensively, they got really good players. They play multiple, guys at the skill positions, and they like to throw it, but they do have a good run game. So they're really sound on special teams, and it's a good, well-rounded football team. They play complementary football. They're very, very well coached. They play with a lot of confidence. They're a physical team, on both sides of the ball, and so it's a challenge for us. I mean, it's a Big Ten road game in November against a very, very good football team. We know that.
Mel, Kenneth Walker, he has this uncanny knack that when even the other team knows he's going to get the ball most of the time, he gets big yards. I don't know how you find him or when you found him, but did you ever believe he would be quite this good when you got him here?
Well, obviously we could see a skill set, and we know what type of scheme that we were going to run on offense, and what we were going to ask him to do, and we feel like he'd be a difference maker for us, and that's why we wanted him here. Well, I mean, he's a good player, and he's got good players around him, so, I mean, he's producing, and it's not a surprise for us that he's producing because, he puts the work in every single day. He goes hard, like real hard in the weight room. He's a guy that I've never seen him loaf. We have to back him down in practice and make sure we monitor his reps because he'll run himself into the ground. He's humble guy. He's all about team. He's team oriented, and he works to get better. He's hyper competitive. He wants the ball, and he wants to win, and so he's got the talent and the mental makeup to get the job done. I mean, his mental disposition towards competing is at an elite level.
Going back to the 2017 season, a lot of these, I shouldn't say a lot, but a number of these guys were here and competing for a Big Ten championship into November. A lot of the guys on the offensive line in particular. I'm wondering how much that helps for you right now going into November to have guys who have been in that hunt into November.
I think experience is a great teacher. I mean, it's you rely on your experience, and whether that experience was good or bad, you learn from it, and then that helps you, moving forward. And so I think it's always good to have players or coaches or anyone who's actually been there before, because some people haven't been there. They don't know what it's like. They don't know what they're getting into. So it helps to have people around, especially in leadership positions, to say, okay, hey, this is what this is. This is what we need to do, and here's where our focus needs to be, and this is how we're going to get this done.
Hey, Mel in the front down here again. Real quick, Anthony Russo, I was wondering if you could address his status and if he is available on Saturday.
Yeah, he's our backup quarterback this week.
Okay. Yeah. And then with all that was going on Saturday, with all the big plays, one of them that kind of got lost in the shuffle was that 4th and short where the completion to Naylor. I was wondering if you can kind of talk about that play and what you saw there and the call from Jay.
Yeah, it was really good execution, good call, and we know that we're going to have some 4th down calls in the games, depending on the situation in the game, the field position, things like that. So Jay's always going to have 4th down calls ready. He always knows when we're in 4 down territory. Possibly he's going to have those calls ready. We had another one where we critical 4th down where we hit Reed, on a big play that took us all the way down to like the 1 yard line. So it's really good execution, good play call, and being aggressive and playing to win the game. I mean, we got to make plays. We got to make plays like that to win those types of games.
Mel, the topic of Michigan State's performance after the Michigan game has always sort of been a thing. I mean, you've talked about it here today. Does being undefeated and the goals that you guys have in front of you maybe help with that? And just, do you lean into that much about, hey guys, like anything we want to do can kind of be attained at this point when you're 8-0, or do you just try to make everything about Purdue this? Do you use those big goals at this point in the year to try to get guys focused and say, look at the prize sort of at the end of the road,
Yeah, well, we told them that this, we have to play our best football in November. This is November madness for us, and that was communicated, to our football team. We also communicated to them that we haven't come this far just to come this far. So we got a lot ahead of us, and Purdue is next, and we're laser focused on them. And it's going to be all about our preparation and not just the type of preparation that we had last week. We need to take it up a notch or two. Everyone, myself, the coaches, players, trainers, strength staff, nutrition, equipment, operations, everyone's got to take it up a notch, because that's what you need to do this time of year. That's what you need to do to go on the road and beat a good team in November. That's what you need to do. You need to take it up a notch. You need to tighten the screws. Everything's got to be at a higher level, and that's where our focus is, and that's what we're going to demand from ourselves to do that. That's going to give us the best chance to have success in the game. It's all about what we do next, and we got to really get after it this week, and we're going to do that. We're not going to settle for anything less this week, and just elite level preparation and focus and intent in everything we do. Nothing casual. And like I said, if there's any casualness in anyone, they will not go on this. They will not go on the bus to go to the airport. They will not go on this trip. We're going to be lean and mean, and whoever can get it done this week, that's who's going.
Kind of along the lines of the fourth down calls, Jay obviously dialed up two pretty good 2-point calls as well. I'm wondering, one, how much do you work on that during the week? And two, after seeing the Illinois-Penn State game, did you have to work on it more with all the 2-point calls in that game that you see kind of could determine a game now? Yeah, we work on 2-point plays every week, and so we know what they are. We have more than one, obviously. And, it all comes down to execution. It's situational football. We talked about this morning how important it is to practice those things and make sure that we're ready to go and execute. Whether it could be a short yardage situation, it could be a 4th and 1, it could be a red zone, it could be a 2-minute offense or defense. It could be 2-point plays. Defending 2-point plays, third downs, all those situational things we practice every single week, and we emphasize them, and they're very, very important, and you don't know when they're going to come up. You just don't know. You could go, a whole season with no 2-point plays, and then again, you could have a game where you're pulling out, your 5th and 6th, 7th 2-point plays, so. And it's situational football, and we do practice those things. Do you like that rule, the 2-point rule in overtime now?
Yeah, I'm fine with it. I mean, it's not something that can be changed right now, so it is what it is, and we'll do what we have to do if we get in those situations.
Mel, over here again. Charles Brantley, somebody who early on in camp, we heard people talking about let Chuck be Chuck and all this stuff. And I'm wondering, with a freshman who seems to have a natural swagger to him and an air of confidence, how quickly you saw that in practice with him in fall camp, and how often with freshmen it like day one versus growing into it?
Well, we saw Chuck on film, like in high school, that he was, even though he's a slight of build, right now, that he will come up and strike you. I mean, he looks for contact. We saw that earlier in the year. He's going to try to put it on you with whatever he's got, and obviously, he's got speed, he's got some length, and he's got very good instincts. He's a football player, and so we're going. If you're good enough, you're old enough, and so he had an opportunity to go out there and play, and he's doing things that we've seen him do in practice and things that we've seen him do in high school. Just go out there and compete, and he should get better and better. As long as he continues to work at it and learn from his experiences and things like that, and continue to work with his nutrition in the weight room. That's Herb Haygood's nephew, so he's got pedigree as well.
Did you know, like first week of practice, or okay, this kid's got a chance to play this year?
Yeah, I mean, we knew that he had a chance just because of his skill set. Then when we put the pads on, we saw that he was willing to strike people at this level. He said, "Well, hey man, this guy's going to play. I mean, like, he's going to compete." And that's what you need. You need guys that it's not too big for them, and that they're willing to compete and be physical and go out there and make plays. And even, if you get beat, you got to get back in the fight. And he's taking his lumps out there as a freshman this year, but he keeps coming back, and he keeps chopping, and And he was, he was ready to go. When we called his number, he ran on out there and got lined up, and he was running and hitting. And so that's, that's what you need. And it doesn't matter if you're a freshman, you're a senior or whatever. I mean, if you can get it done, and then, we're going to put you out there.
Mel, you talked about wanting to build through the high school ranks with recruiting. Obviously, it seemed like a pretty big weekend, a lot of guys on campus. So what's the response after a game like this? Do you kind of feel like they're sensing the turnaround here? And what are those conversations like after a big win like that?
Yeah, a lot of like validation, because players that we're recruiting, we've been on those guys for a while, and some of them haven't been to campus yet. This maybe was their first time being on campus, actually seeing and feeling the atmosphere of like Spartan Stadium, the Woodshed, the crowd, the student section, the band, and then seeing our team play, seeing our coaches coach, just seeing, how we go about our business. And then what they're doing is, because we're competing for these players. And so competition in recruiting is a lot about comparison. So they're comparing what they see at other places when they go to games. They're comparing that to what they see from us and how we handle ourselves as coaches and as players, and how we play the game and our process and things like that. And so it was very positive response from the prospects who and their families that were at the game, and we're going to continue to evaluate what we're doing, as we go through the season, and then all the way up until signing, and whether they're 22s or 23s or 24s, it's continually evaluating us and comparing us to the other schools, the other places that they're considering, and so we always have to put our best foot forward.
Hey Mel, I want to ask you about Jacob Slade a little bit and the job that he did in helping.
You said Jacob Slade?
Yes.
The Grim Sleeper?
Yeah, the Grim Sleeper, okay. His ability to help contain the run along with Simeon Barrow, and also the way they've pressed the pocket in the pass rush, doing both of those things all year, and the job they did and what they've been doing. Can you expand on those guys?
Yep, so, it starts up front. We knew we needed to be able to contain the run, stop the run, and knock it out, and need to be able to run the ball. So you want to be strong down the middle, defensively. When you got your defensive tackles and you got your linebackers and your safeties, you need to be strong down the middle like baseball with the catcher and the pitcher, shortstop, second base, center field. You got to be strong, and those guys are stout inside, and that's where it starts. So if you can anchor inside and control your gap and be able to violent shed and finish on the ball and get knocked back and create a new line of scrimmage up front inside, then you got it. That gives you the best chance, in the run game. And then in the pass game, it's all about having a coordinated pass rush. And especially when you got 5 guys blocking 4, it's tough duty inside with those tackles, and they got to fight the fight on the center, fight the fight on the guard. Make sure we always got someone in the A gap rusher, and it's a hustle rush. It's a collapse the pocket, and eliminate the step up with the quarterback as much as possible. And if we can get a coordinated pass rush and a level rush on the outside and good pocket collapse, along with some of the gains that we may run, then you can affect the quarterback. So that's what those guys do for us inside.
And what about the personalities of those two and how they've meshed together? One's a new guy, one's been around a while, slugging for a long time.
Yep, 2 very different personalities, both great guys, that hard workers, that are like meat and potato guys, lunch pail, roll your sleeves up, rugged, practice hard, not a lot of talking, just a lot of working, physical guys and guys that they work hard in practice. And so, what you see is what you get. Slade is has more experience. Obviously, so it's good to have a more experienced guy next to a lesser experienced guy. So he helps him out. But those are two, stout guys in there. And then you add, we rotate like four or five guys inside there. So we have some good players in there that they can hold up in the run game and make plays and then outside, it's the same type of deal. And we need to have a stout front. We need to be able to set the edge and build a wall inside with our ends, our tackles and our linebackers, and then any defensive backs that are part of the primary run support. We need to set edge and build a wall in there and be stout in order to stop the run. And everyone's at the point of attack, whether you're front side or back side. You got to do your job. You can't go 1-for-1 on the blocking scheme. You got to whip your guy, violent shit, and finish on the ball once that ball can't challenge your gap. And those guys understand how to do that. And they're working to get better. All right, thank you so much. Appreciate you. Go Green.